19th, 2021, and we're going to call the school committee meeting to order. Our first item on the agenda is our consent agenda with two items, our minutes from January 5th and the warrant numbered 0044. Did anybody get a chance to review the files? And if so, can you make a motion to approve, please?
Well, I'm wondering if we should have had our meeting, or if there were meeting minutes from the 14th, the superintendent salary one, if that should be part of the record or no?
I haven't done those yet.
It would be, yeah, it should be. Yeah.
Okay, so just part of the next
Yeah.
one, that's fine. I didn't know
Yeah.
if there was, I just checking, that's all.
Yeah. Jen, two things. You're in and out. One, I don't know if it's just me, but I'm hearing choppy. But two, you're making a great point for future reference. Any meeting, because it's all open meeting, would have some minutes associated with it, and it would be approved. So thank you for bringing that up.
And on my video and audio, I'll try it, and if it gets bad, I'll just call in.
Okay. It was actually back to normal right now. All right. So
Make the motion
all right,
to
thank you,
approve the consent
Audrey.
agenda.
Great. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second,
All right.
Definitely.
Okay. All right. So any edits, comments, questions on either one of those items? All right. Hearing none. All in favor to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approved unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to our visitors' comments section. So we have 23 attendees, 23 visitors. If you would like to speak, please raise your hand using the raise hand feature on your Zoom app, and we'll move you to the panel for you to be able to speak. Alex, the hands would be all the way on top, right? I don't see any right now. Okay. All right. So as always, I will leave this section with this encouragement and note. This visitors comments section is really for everyone to be able to come to the school committee meetings and provide their feedback, comments. You can ask questions too. We may not be able to, and in most cases, we will not be able to respond to your questions because we have to really, as a committee, to be able to discuss some of those issues before we can provide an answer. But I can guarantee you that everything that you share with us, everything that you express during this visitors comments section is taken into consideration. That's how we find out about what our community members are thinking, saying, what their wishes are, and we take those into consideration. Just like your notes to us, your emails and everything else, they don't go unheard. Even if we don't always get to respond to those, we take them into consideration. So please consider coming to these sessions if you have any feedback or comments. As I mentioned in the past, and I will mention this one more time, we cannot run our business on social media. We do not go and track what's going on social media. We can only know what you think, what your thoughts are, if you come to these sessions and share those with us. We cannot, on the other hand, have a business meeting with all of you during these visitors comments section. It is just to hear from you. But I can guarantee you it's a lot better than us not being able to hear or know about what you are sharing as you are having some of those dialogues on social media. There is a place for that, but we cannot really go and track and monitor what's going on social media and bring those here. So please reach out to us. If you want to email, please email. If you would like to come to these visitors comment sections and raise your hand and speak, please don't hesitate. This section was created for you and for your comments and your feedback. So I will leave it at that and move to our student rep, who I don't see on the other side. Alex, I don't know if you are seeing Marcus on the other side. I don't see him. Nope. Okay. All right. So Marcus is not with us, so we're not going to have a student representative report this time, I guess. So we'll move directly to our new business. The first item is a vote on building user fees. And I think Allie will be presenting this one. I will move her here.
Do it on your phone. Yeah.
Hi, Allie.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I am on the Board of Health meeting as well, if you can hear Mr. Belmediere in the background. My apologies.
All right.
I don't have anything new to present on the building use.
Okay.
Other than I was looking for a vote. I did try to update that section the last time for it to reflect under the PTO and the booster, like them being considered not to have to pay.
Right.
But I couldn't get into Family ID. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties at the high school with some of our programs loading.
Okay. So just to make sure that I understand what you just shared, our own internal volunteer organizations like the Booster Club and PTO and Granby Music Association, they would be able to use facilities without any charge. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Just wanted to clarify. I think that's the way to go. One more thing that I wanted to clarify. What you shared with us in our folder, under the top header, there is something that says $0. So it says something like non-Granby, outside of Granby nonprofit organization and $0. It doesn't mean that they are able to use the facilities for $0, right? What we should be looking at is the list of items that you have underneath that and the charge for each one of those activities.
Correct. It's set up with a fee scale under there. The document doesn't look so pretty when you look at it, but when you look at the program online, it looks great. It was just a hard time copying and pasting it over.
Cool. All right, thank you.
You can understand what it looked like. I do plan to do a trial run with somebody, probably the Booster Club and with Tammy Sosa, and just have her go through it just to make sure that it works okay. Yep.
Yeah, and just to address any possible concerns out there, we're not saying that we're going to start renting out space at our schools now.
No.
Obviously, this is a pretty tricky situation where we can't even use some of our own facilities. So this is basically for future use, hopefully when we do not have to contend with a pandemic. And this is basically something that you've been working on for a while, correct?
Yeah, that's the plan. Just looking to hit the checkbox, and just move it forward so we can be done. We've been talking about it for a couple of years. So it's just, it's about that time. But as soon as guidelines open up, we'll be good to go.
Cool. Thank you for chasing this. Thank you for bringing this back to the school committee. Did anybody get a chance to review? If so, is there a motion to approve the business use fees document?
I'll make the motion to approve the building use fees document.
Thank you, Jen.
I can second that.
Okay. Any comments, questions?
I had the one question that you did too, Emery, about that first line where it said $0, but you already clarified that, so.
Okay. Any others?
And my one question is, I know that no one is using the building right now, but do we have a potential timeline of when people might be able to use the building?
I'll let Allie answer.
I really don't know.
I don't mean to back you in a corner. I'm just wondering, we've got this out there, and can anyone asked to use the building now? I mean, if it's socially distant and following protocols and everything else, could people use the building?
I think we're erring on the side of the caution and not allowing guests in the building. The only ones that really have been approved were the kiddos that were in the building, in school, and the athletics, but you'll learn more tonight that we pushed the start date back. So yeah, nobody, we haven't had any use requests either.
Okay.
I wouldn't think so. I was just curious.
Yeah, we're hoping maybe next fall things will be somewhat back to normal.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So we had a motion, a second. One last time, any questions? Any other questions? All right. Hearing none, all to approve the business building user fees document, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Approved unanimously. Moving on to the second item, social media policy, athletics. And I think, Allie, this is yours as well.
Yes, I will keep this short. So it's not specific towards athletics. We wanted to put something in place where students can use social media outlets such as the also popular Instagram, Twitter, things like that, and just put some policy in place in regards to students using it. We didn't have any existing language outside of our technology use language that was in the student handbook. So we just wanted to add some language, more so because some of the class officers use it for communication, especially now through the pandemic. They've had to rely a lot on it. So we're just looking to put some things in writing and put a policy in place that wasn't previously there.
Cool. Any questions for Allie on that one? Audrey, go
I
ahead.
do. So I'm seeing how it's naming some specific types. I mean, and I see some that are listed as a no. Are we going to keep updating it as we decide which accounts are yes or no's? Or I feel like there's so many out there, so to list the ones that we did at yes or no.
I went with the ones that through experience working with the students are probably the easiest to monitor. Obviously, Instagram is pretty popular among the kids, but they have a lot of settings where you can restrict things, restrict comments, things like that. Kids really don't do Twitter. It's not really a thing among them right now. I think Twitter, I use it for athletics. But for the most part, the kids were just using Instagram. I'm sure they have Snapchat, but that's not something that we were looking to support them using as, an avenue to communicate with their class, because everything disappears in 24 hours. So you can't.
Agree.
So
it was just weird that it says prohibited. I'm like, there's so many others too.
Yeah, there is. I think if we just keep it pretty limited, again, it's really for group organizations such as, the class officers, things like that. And all the kids undergo the hazing sign off at the beginning of the year. They have to by law. So you take that in consideration too, that they'd be using it appropriately. And again, we didn't have anything in place, but we just wanted to get something in writing and add it to the student handbook.
Other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Audrey. Allie, I have a couple of questions. One is, if this is for internal communication only, is there any other software that can be completely within school firewall and be used that way? Or is this something that the students will be able to use to share some, pictures about their events, whatever that event may be, with the broader public? If that is the case, will there be a gatekeeper, or can a student basically press the button and share whatever they think is appropriate?
Yeah, I think a lot of it, we were planning on restricting it so kids couldn't make comments off things. So we were really looking for, my junior class is looking to do polls to see what they want for food for the prom, in a couple of years. So that's the purpose really, for polling. Again, they wouldn't be able to make comments or post things. It really is just for more of communication out there for the kiddos.
Okay. So as far as I can see, there is no vote needed on this one tonight. Is that correct?
I mean, it'd be great.
Since you mentioned that, you were still thinking about some aspects of it, would it be fair to say that there will be some potential changes to it?
Sorry if I said I don't remember saying I was looking at some aspects of it. I'm having a hard
So for
time
instance, you said
balancing
that you
two
would,
meetings.
you
Sorry.
will, yeah, when you say you will look to, restrict, I don't know what that necessarily means. Will there be some additional things on this document that will say we're going to restrict this way or that way?
I don't think so. I think what you see on that document, the policy is embedded in that school committee presentation form. I think
Right.
that's
Yeah.
really just putting a process in place for the kids that come to us that would like to use, Instagram for the class of 2023 or class of 2022. I think what you see is what you get.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right. Is there a motion to approve the student social media policy?
I'll make a motion to approve
Thank you,
the
Jen.
social media. Second.
Okay. Questions, comments? Okay. All in favor to approve, please say aye.
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 Thank you. Approved unanimously. Thank you, Ally. I guess you're gonna return to the more popular meeting now, and
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. I'll be back for winter sports.
all right, sounds good. Thank you, Ally.
Thanks,
See you
Ally.
soon. Bye.
Alex or Emery, can you promote Susan Craigo?
Sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hi, Susan.
She make it on,
Yeah, she's
signing in.
moved to mute, but I can't hear her.
Susan is our Curriculum and Technology Integration Coordinator, and she is going to be presenting the next item on the agenda, which is the plan for the Student Opportunity Act.
Cool. Susan, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear
Good.
me?
Yes,
We can.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see where I can share my screen with you.
So at the bottom of your screen, are you seeing a green button that says share screen?
No.
Alex, could you help with that?
if not,
What device are you using, Sue?
I'm using a Mac.
It should be at the bottom. Move your mouse.
I'm moving it. All I see is the raised hand.
You know what? She has to be promoted to panelist in order to share her screen. Give me a sec.
Okay.
Some of you I did meet over the summer, I think, right?
Yes.
Here we go.
Yeah, you should be able to.
Yep, good. Okay. All right, hang on, let me get this into, here we go. So I'm going to talk to you tonight about the Student Opportunity Act. I think last year you were, I guess you had some presentations about this in February and in March. Some of you, I think, were not on the school committee at the time. So I'll just refresh your memory a little bit to talk about this. So let me, whoops, hang on one second. I'm sorry, I'm legally blind, so I'm trying to manage this.
No worries.
Well, this is embarrassing to be the technology person and have these problems. Hang on.
I don't think when it comes to technology, there is anything embarrassing. We all bump into.
Thanks, I appreciate that, Emery. There we go. Okay, I have my screen blown up. That's why. Okay, so I think the first thing you might want to know is what it is. And in 2019, the legislators in Massachusetts passed the Student Opportunities Act, which was meant to offset the disparities that were caused in funding by the Chapter 70 formula that determines how much money districts get. For years, people had been, especially people in the western part of the state, have been saying that the formula shortchanged us. And so this was rather than change the formula, this was the legislation's, I guess, remedy for that problem. To this point, we haven't seen any money from it yet, but we might, which is why we're here tonight. So what does this mean for our district? So they're funding at a rate of approximately $30 per student. They may increase it or that it won't be any lower than $30. So let's put it that way. So based on our current population, it would give us around $21,000, which isn't a ton of money, but it could pay for some things, and $21,000 is better to have than to not have, I assume. So in order to get this money, districts have to have an evidence-based program that addresses an achievement gap, a disparity for students of what the district or the state defines as a subgroup, student subgroup. So we decided to focus on high need students, and I just want to talk for a minute about what that means and why. So you all have been talking since the summer about high need students in our district and who get to come back to school or not. This is a different definition. This is a definition given by DESE for record keeping purposes. And basically it's an umbrella term that covers all of these 4 bullet points, kids that fall into any of these categories. So kids that are eligible for and receive subsidies. So for example, a kid that's in foster care, their families would get subsidies for that. A low income and or economically disadvantaged student, an English learner or a former English learner, and also students with a disability. So we decided to focus on this group because if you can see, I went back and did some research on our numbers in the district for high need students and how many we have. And as you can see, I looked at the last 7 years, and our numbers are steadily growing in that area. From 2015 till now, we went from 30% to 44% of our population, which is a big increase. And the other thing I did was look at our MCAS scores. So for the last 3 years of available data, I looked at 2019 because we didn't have the MCAS last year. So 2019, 2018, and 2017. If you look at, can you see my mouse?
Yes.
Okay. So under I looked at the ELA scores, the math scores, and the science scores. First for East Meadow. This is just a collection of all the scores, not by grade level or anything. And so you can see that, like, for example, these first 2 columns are for 2019. These are for 2018. These are for 2017 under each of these subjects. And so in every case, the lower bar represents how the high need students scored on the top 2 categories that you can score on the MCAS. For the elementary schools, for all 3 of those years, it's been meets or exceeds expectations. And so this is the gap that our students, our high need students suffer. And clearly it's consistent, although you see that this is a little bit of an anomaly right here. And the other thing I want you to know is that this bar, these high bars represent all of our students together, which also includes the high need scores. So if we were able to call out the high need scores, there'd be a bigger gap that exists. So this is the gap that exists at East Meadow. If you look at the high school, it's very similar. These bars are the same. It's also interesting how, and I want to dig into this, why this is that, and I think it's a good thing. The gap is still there, but students perform better on the 2019 science than they have in the past in a significant way, but that's beside the point. So we have a consistent gap and a growing population of students. And so that's why we chose the high needs kids to focus on. And basically, you know, the way we would know whether or not our program was successful is if this gap started to close. So we decided to build our plan. Obviously, always when you're making decisions like this, we looked at our mission statement, and if I took a quote from it here, where we're talking about making sure that all students have equal opportunity and that we celebrate and cater to, I guess, or tailor our teaching to all students, but also all aspects of the children, social, economic, social, emotional, physical, and intellectual. So it ties in with what we're going to do, ties in with our mission statement, but it also includes points on our strategic plan. So these are 4 points that had been started last year. I'm still building on them this year, and I'll talk more about that in a second, but to establish a school-based instructional leadership team, which was in place when I took this job in July and is still functioning in both schools, to make sure that the curriculum is aligned with Massachusetts frameworks and also vertically aligned, and here it's written within the district, trying to get a written curriculum too, and also to establish K through 12 assessment system, which last year they used MAP. There were some issues with it. A lot of teachers felt that especially for the younger students, it was too long of a test and it maybe didn't measure what they could do. And we could talk about that a little more at some other point, and also to create an innovative program of studies for kids so they have interesting classes to take and sort of cutting edge. So here's our plan. In order to, one of the things we wondered about was, so when they talk about a research-based or an evidence-based program, what did they mean? And they gave us a list of things to choose from. And so having something that aligned with our strategic plan, we decided on this from their drop-down menu, actually, to support the educators to implement high-quality aligned curriculum. And that was the focus last year, and it's continuing this year, even in the COVID situation that we're in. So one thing I just want to let you know, another aspect of this, there's a researcher, he's a well-respected educational researcher named John Hattie, and he does what's called meta-analysis of a number of tons of studies. And he focuses on trying to figure out what schools could do and change that would have the highest impact on student learning. And he makes this big, long list of, it's more complicated than this, but he does have a list of what these strategies are that schools could use, rating them from the ones that have the highest impact down into strategies that actually have a negative impact on student learning, or practices that do. And so at the very top of the list is what he says, developing teacher efficacy. And that has the highest impact on student learning. And so the work that we're doing here with teacher collaboration, trying to have an innovative curriculum, teachers, really digging into their practice, because the work that we're doing causes them to write curriculum in the way we're trying to do it, forces them to really look at what they do and examine it and see if it's effective and how they're going to measure it with their students, and that sort of thing. So, collective efficacy with teachers, how do you know if you have it? What it looks like is where teachers are collaborating together, and they also believe strongly that the work that they do can have a positive impact on students. even overriding whatever their home environment might, how they might be affected by their home environment, their past situations. And so that's why we are moving in this direction. So the plan is basically that we're going to vertically align a set of focus standards. The teachers, that's the first thing they're going to start doing in February, actually. They are also going to write standards-based curriculum in the UBD, which is understanding by design format. And that's a very labor-intensive way of doing it, but it's also, I've done it myself as a teacher in a district where we wrote our entire curriculum in UBD. It took us years to do it, but it was one of the most meaningful professional development experiences I ever had, and helped me change my practice to be far more effective than I ever thought I could be. And so we're going that route, which actually was started before I got here. One of the stages of UBD is assessments, to really look at assessments that are both differentiated and also performance-based. So you might move away from your standard multiple choice tests, et cetera, into things that are a little more complicated, but allow all students to really show their learning. And then also to create opportunities for more hands-on learning for students, which those last two bullet points tie in with each other. So resources from the Funding Act will pay for these things. And we're paying for them right now, but so this would offset the cost that we are spending. So one would be for teacher training. The other is a platform it's an online platform called EduPlanet 21, which is where we store our written curriculum. It walks teachers through the UBD format, and it also includes training that's built into the platform. It's pretty good. It's run by the guy who actually created the UBD format. Also have a curriculum development team, which I did start this year, so that teachers are getting highly trained in writing curriculum, and also will be used as resources for other teachers. It'll pay for a progress monitoring tool. Right now, the state is offering some free no cost assessments for this year only. So we're going to pilot one of those starting soon in 7th and 8th grade. They'll be doing something called iStation, and the elementary school is doing MobiMax, which they had already purchased, but also can act as the same kind of tool. And then also any instructional materials that go along with this. So I think one of those things would be, we definitely need a reading program at the elementary level, and a new math program too. And so there's going to be a lot of probably high-end purchases regarding those two subjects for in the near future. So that's all I have to say. Thank you. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Any questions for Susan? Okay. So what is as you said, we started having these conversations a long time ago. In fact, unfortunately, it happened to coincide with the time slightly before we got hit by the pandemic. We had someone from MASC come and do a presentation. The community was invited, Tracy Novick. And so thank you for refreshing our memories. What is that we need to do? Is this what are the next steps? Let me ask you that way.
Well, we still don't know actually whether we'll get any money this year because of COVID and all the money that's being spent there. But I guess what the school committee has to do is approve the plan, like say that you're okay with, us taking the curriculum route and using the money in that way, and targeting our high need students. I mean, the truth about this work is that it does benefit high need students, and we can, we should be focusing on them, but this kind of work actually impacts all the students. When you have really well-developed curriculum and assessments that are accessible to everybody, everyone benefits, not just the high needs kids. So.
Right.
Right. If you don't mind, Audrey, just one quick question. So that's, in your presentation, it caught my eye that there was this focus on high needs students, and the amount of additional funds that you mentioned, that was a lot smaller than I thought, we were going to receive. In fact,
Yeah.
I thought the initial calculations were showing quite a bit more than that. Is this still part of that? When we say Student Opportunity Act, are we still talking about the process to update the formula as school funding is determined, or is this now a subset of it, a subgroup of it? Can you help us?
I believe this is the subgroup of it.
Okay.
They still haven't updated the formula, so I think this is a way to address the problem more immediately, although 2019 is long gone and it's still not really addressed, so
Right.
We'll see.
Adam, do you have something? Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the state's attempt at getting more money to school districts where the Chapter 70 formula doesn't yield them a lot of money. So this is that. However, it's on pause, at least for implementing it this year because of COVID. And I think it's still a question as to when they will try to fund that in the future. But yeah, this what she was talking about is the state's attempt to get more money to schools, through the Chapter 70 formula, where they've recognized that formula is not, addressing the needs of school districts with high needs populations.
Audrey, you had a question.
So as we were going through and you were talking about, what they're going to start using, I'm sorry, I moved my spot where I was. And that they are going to use, or you do use EduPlanet and things like that as the platform. But then also you kind of wrapped into needing some new ELA and math curriculum at the elementary school. So in my head, I started to think, well, are they going to be starting to spend time on the curriculum that's currently that they're using to then switch gears into potentially, not that we're purchasing anytime soon, because I know how much that stuff goes for, but.
Well, yeah, if the work is standards based, so the information that they would need from, say, a new textbooks or some new program that they decide to use, approach to teaching, reading, etc., wouldn't come until the third stage of writing the curriculum. It's the last phase where they do the day-to-day or month-to-month or week-to-week planning. So we won't be that far into the process by next year. And so I think it'll coincide nicely because they'll have these new materials and have to really dig through them in order to be able to write their plans in any kind of detailed way.
So that also brought me to a second question of when was the last time that we purchased curriculum? I'm assuming it was when the frameworks changed over a little bit too, or?
Yeah, I honestly don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
It's been a while. I mean, we're in a position now where, for the elementary school anyway, the math and English curriculum that they do have doesn't have a strong or really usable online component. The teachers' materials are accessible by the teachers, which is good, but the student, whatever the students need is not accessible because it's so outdated. And so, we're feeling that pinch. The teachers are feeling it right now, since kids are in an online situation. So besides the fact that, the conversation around teaching reading has really shifted in the last couple of years to a combination of, a pretty heavy reliance on teaching phonics, but also other approaches, that a combination where many teachers were not teaching phonics at all. Some were to some degree here in Granby, but so much has changed in the field, and so we need to get more current.
So Audrey, I don't recall exact dates, but I know that I was part of a couple of votes related to curriculum changes. And probably within the last 5 years, we made changes to some of the curriculum. So my perspective and request would be to really do a little better this time, because we had almost the same conversations last time. Obviously now we have a position that is dedicated to, just like yours, dedicated to better coordinating needs for a connected curriculum across the entire school district. And I appreciate that, because last time when we had these conversations, one of the highlights was we're going to create this continuity between the elementary components going into the junior high and senior high. And then we found out that it may or may not have done that. So I'm hopeful that this time around we will have a better design to really make sure that not only we do that, create that continuity, but also do some of the things that you mentioned, the online components and all that, which evolved over the last few years, which became a necessity, probably more so as a result of everything that we had to go through the last year, really how we can better integrate technology into curriculum. So I'm hopeful that this will do that. My question, all that said, you mentioned that this would be funded through the state, some of the purchases needs would be funded through the state. Is it full funding, or would it still leave some things for the school districts to fund also?
Right now, what we're spending on the elements that I showed you in the presentation, we are covering all of it. And so the money, and it's not as much as, it's not $24,000. It's less than that. So we have a little extra money, to spend on materials, et cetera.
Okay. Jen?
So we're already actually using the plan, even though you wanted us to vote on the plan? Did I misunderstand
Well,
something?
the truth is the plan is part of the 5-year strategic plan. That's work we have to do anyway. What this does is focus on high need students, help us track their performance. That's really it. We made this decision partly because it's something we're doing already. The only difference is that we have a focus on how our high need students are performing.
But
Instead of starting something completely new Carol, I'm sorry, I'm not running this meeting, sorry.
No, I just wanted to jump in when you're done.
No, go ahead, I'm done.
So Jen, this started last year.
I remember.
Oh, yeah. So this was supposed to have been done in the spring. And when COVID hit, everything stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And I got notified a week ago that we needed to have a plan in. So I had Adam, Susan, and I, Bill and Stephen, looked at all of the components of this and then implemented what was supposed to happen last year for this year. So we wrote it based on that we got the money, but we don't even know if we will get the money. And that's what we were directed to do, was to write the plan as if we're getting the money. Is that correct, Adam? You would.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's kind of the problem here, is that we're kind of dealing with the unknown. So we have to have a plan in place, but we don't know if we're going to get that funding from the state to implement that plan in full. So yeah, correct.
But from a process and procedure perspective, what we're trying to do now is really to respond to the state's request that there should be a plan, and the plan has to be approved by the school committee. And
Yes,
it needs to be submitted to them.
yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Any other questions for Sue or Carol or Adam? Go ahead, Jen.
So kind of follow-up question, if we vote to approve the plan, we're not voting to approve spending at this point, are we? Like, are we voting to purchase the curriculum if we don't know if we're
No.
actually getting money or?
No, the curriculum actually is not, the textbooks, et cetera, are not part of this plan. That's an additional thing.
I just wanted to clarify, thank you.
Mhm.
And correct me if I'm wrong, curriculum changes would be presented to the school committee at one point when they are ready to go, and then there would be a vote around that as well, correct? Because we're really shifting curriculum. At least in my experience, that's how it was done in the past.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I just also want to just point out that there is a difference between, instructional materials like textbooks and curriculum. The textbooks are the tool that they use to deliver the instruction. And so I don't want to blur the line between those two.
Does that answer your question, Jen? Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So with that, is there a motion to approve our Student Opportunity Act plan?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Jen. Is there a second? Audrey's seconding. All right. Any other final questions, concerns, comments? Okay. All in favor to approve the Student Opportunity Act plan, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I think it was any opposed? Okay, I did not see all the hands. Good. Approved unanimously. Thank you all. Thank you, Sue, for coming and presenting.
Thanks. It was nice meeting you all, even though it's virtually.
Same here.
Thank you, Sue.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Sue.
Okay. So
Alex, you want to send me back to?
I'll- it's like a Star Trek episode. Our next section is our continuing business. We're going to start with Chartwell's update. Adam, can you lead us through that?
Yeah, so I asked Ken to join us on the meeting tonight. I just wanted him to just talk real quick for 2 minutes. Just to be a real quick update on what they've been doing, how many meals they've been serving, and I kind of wanted him just to get in front of you guys if you had any questions.
Okay.
So Alex, I don't know if you could let
I
Ken in,
moved him
please.
here. I
Okay,
moved.
awesome.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Ken.
How's everybody?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Thanks for having me on tonight.
Sure. Are we gonna see you or just your initials? You don't. I mean, you don't have to if you didn't comb your hair or anything. Don't worry about
Not let me in.
it.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
So just to give you a little update from last time we met.
Hey, Ken, is there anything that you're going to be sharing? Because if that's the case, we're going to have to make you a panelist. Were
No,
you
I don't
planning
have-
on sharing anything? All right, go ahead. then.
So like we said in November, we started on weekend meals. So in November, we served just over 2,000 meals, and in December, 1,700 meals on the weekends alone.
Wow.
So our total numbers in November, we served just over 14,000 meals, and in December it was about 14,200. Comparing meals from last November and December, it's kind of skewed because of the whole situation. But in November, we served 4,000 more meals in November this year than last year. Obviously, because of serving weekends, the holiday breaks, we're serving meals every day. So That's a little skewed. In December, we served 6,000 more meals than last year in December.
And Ken, this is
Our
just,
numbers,
if you don't mind, this is still entirely covered by the funding that we're receiving, correct?
correct.
Okay.
Correct. We were on a waiver this year. It's called the seamless summer option. So we're allowed to serve on weekends. We're allowed to serve holidays. We're allowed to serve, during vacations. So, USDA has waived, I think it's 70 waivers they've had this year for USDA. Obviously we can just serve the meals to the grandparents, to family. The kids don't have to be there to purchase the meal. So our numbers have stayed steady over the past couple of months. At each distribution day, we're serving around 230 to 240 students. So just on a Monday, we're serving 2 days. So we're serving over 500 breakfasts and 500 lunches per distribution day, which is just showing the need that's out there at this point. Also, as far as menus, in the last couple of months, we've expanded on the menus. This month, we're doing pulled pork sandwiches. We're making homemade beef chili and sending it home, homemade shepherd's pie. This month as well, we're doing a chicken garden salad to the students. So we're trying to expand the menu. We kind of saw it was getting a little redundant, so we're trying to expand it for everybody's. That's pretty much all I have.
I have a question for you. So all these years when we had these conversations, one of the items that we discussed was the menu, what was on the menu. I'm assuming that some of these menu items you mentioned, they are new. And if they are, if they are liked by, by those who are receiving it, is this something that we will continue hopefully when we are back into the buildings? Is that the intent? Just change the menu?
Yes, I mean, absolutely. We get feedback from the students when we're in school, so we try to keep it fresh, try to keep it, moving different items that are trending. So we try to keep that always moving.
Cool. Did you say that was it, Ken?
Anybody got any questions?
Okay. Any questions for Ken?
I know I had emailed Adam, and Adam, you responded really quickly. Thank you. I did not mean to tell you to respond urgently. I meant to say this isn't urgent, and it came out this is urgent. And he got right back to me on a holiday. But real quick, can you just clarify, are meals still, my gosh, reimbursable on the Monday holidays? Or a Friday holiday?
Yes, under the seamless summer option, which we are currently under, we get reimbursed for weekends, holidays, vacations. If we stayed on the National School Lunch Program, that would not allow us to serve on, when kids are not in school and weekends and vacations. So this year we got the waiver to be in a seamless summer program, which allows us to get reimbursement for all those times.
Okay, great. Thank you. And thanks to everyone. They're doing an amazing job. I know everyone I've heard absolutely loves it and appreciates the program. So everyone's been great.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Stephanie. Any other questions for Ken? All right. Ken, you realize that we got softer, right? Just, we never had these kinds of conversations before. So this is good. So it's
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Hey, I second what Stephanie just said. I think, these are tough times, and I appreciate that our schools in one way are contributing to the community. And I think all of you are doing a great job in keeping that program going and at a high quality. So thank you all of you, Ken, Adam, all of you who are part of the meal program. Thank you.
Thank
Is there
you.
anything
Our
else that
staff
we need
is
from-
really dedicated.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
I just want to say our staff is very dedicated to the schools, to the students, to the community, and we're blessed. I'm proud to call them my team. I really am.
Cool. Thank you. All right, so Adam, is that all we
Yeah, again,
wanted
there's
him for? Okay.
yeah, there's
All right.
really not much to talk about, but yeah, I just wanted him to give you guys a quick overview of the program.
So as far as the food services budget line item is concerned, so it is almost, is it fair to say it's almost moot this year because it is completely funded?
Yeah, so we're actually in a pretty good we're in a pretty good position. Ken, I'm sorry if you mentioned this and I'm repeating it, but I just want to say, so since September we've served over 45,000 meals, which is incredible. And in a month like November, December, and January, where we're kind of heavy with the holidays, and in a typical year we wouldn't be serving food and getting reimbursement, like Ken mentioned, because we're under the seamless summer option waiver this year, we can get reimbursed for every meal that we serve. The revenue is in our favor this year. So it's unfortunate the climate that we're in, but because of Ken and his team and the work that they're putting in and their dedication to getting our families meals on holidays, over the weekends, it's working out in our favor this year. So,
All right. Thank you all again. Ken, thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing.
Thank
Have
you,
a good
everybody.
evening. Yep, we'll see you again.
Be
thanks,
safe.
Ken.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. Our next item is the reopening planning process and updates from the safety committee. Carol.
So we didn't have a safety committee meeting this week, but Stephanie did ask me if I would share, just so the community has an idea of the information we get from the Board of Health. So I have a slide that I will share that, wait a minute, share. Can you see my screen?
Not yet. Yep.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So just, just so that the community knows that we get this data every week from the Board of Health. First column tells us the number of cases that happen each day. The next column is minus multiples. So if it's more in one household, we note that. We have the rolling average, which is the number that's 14-day rolling average. Our percent positivity are what Granby's color is that you can see, and then the number that is posted by, I'm trying to read, my screen is, I have to move it down. The 14-day rolling color average too. So I just, Stephanie thought it would be good for the community to see, that we are getting updated data and that we are monitoring this every week in making our decisions. So I didn't know if any of you had any questions about the data.
If you don't mind, I would go ahead.
I have a question on the column C, positives minus address multi. Can you just, I was trying to get it on my phone so I can actually see it a little bit better than on the screen. Could you just tell me what that is again?
So it just means that they may happen in the same home.
So what does it mean when it's this last week, 114.0?
So 114. So there weren't multiples in a home. It was only one home, so the two, if you go to 1.5, there were 2 cases and they were in the same or 2 homes.
So Jen, it's basically on that day, there was only one new case that was identified. And by definition, there could not be multiples because there was only one case. So it just looks 0 and it's kind of
Right,
confusing.
so if you go to 113, there were 3 cases, but it was in one home.
Although on 1224 there is 1 and it says 1.
That's what I was saying, is like, is it 1 or is it 0?
Yeah.
I'm sure it's just a typo. It's
Yeah.
not a big deal. I just was wondering.
So this, if you don't mind me adding to what you just shared, Carol.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is not the only thing that we'll receive.
Correct.
There are, first of all, several folks on distribution. Our nurses, the school physician,
Yep.
McDuffie. I am on that distribution. Carol's on that distribution, so that a
Carol?
broad range. Pardon me?
The fire.
Yes,
police.
fire, police, they're all on the same distribution, so that there is this broad understanding of where we stand. And there's a fairly long explanation of what these numbers really mean, penned by Dick Bombardier, that accompanies every message that we receive each week. So it's not just here's number.
Right.
Because we would have probably tons of questions like your question, Jen. Otherwise, just what do these numbers really mean? But there's an explanation, a narrative on top of that that we receive, which I'm assuming the Health and Safety Committee is also seeing one way or another,
Yeah.
which helps all of you to have your conversations and reach some of the decisions that you're reaching.
Correct.
So my next question is, this information is lovely, but how do we use it as a metric to make a decision?
Well, as you can see, we're in red. So if I had gone back to September, but I did a screenshot. If I went back to September, it would have been gray and then yellow, so we have been, red now for several weeks.
Right. No, I understand. Sorry, Audrey, and I'm going to follow up my question is, I guess what people are asking me, and sort of the word on the street, if you bear with me, is that the information that we're using doesn't match up with, other communities, and people are out there saying, is our metric outdated? Where is this information? Why is this hindering us if other places are going to red? So what other pieces of the pie go into this that we can see that, I get it. Like, I'm just trying to understand, because people keep asking questions and are asking me questions and asking friends of mine questions. And it just, at some point I kind of want to have like a black and white thing besides just the red that is going into this, so that I can point back to it. Just because we're red is the only reason we're stopping that, when we're saying that, where is the information that says how it's tied to the school? And where is the information that it's tied to the teachers, that we can see where it's kind of community based? Not asking for names or anything, but because that's a HIPAA violation, but there's got to be some kind of a spin on the metric where we can see how it's impacting directly our school community. Just because there's 40 people in a town of 6,500 that have COVID doesn't mean it's a direct tie to the schools. And that's kind of the frustration that people I'm sensing and hearing are asking me. So that's where I'm at. And I just got, my internet is unstable, so you probably didn't hear a word I said.
We did, but we had fun too.
Hello? Hello?
And you look all set now if you want to continue talking.
Well, I'm not sure what you heard.
I think we heard the whole thing.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's really just kind of it. It's kind of I apologize. I didn't mean for it to be sort of rantish. I'm just kind of, I'm getting bombarded with questions, and I made the mistake of reading on Facebook, like you alluded to earlier, Emery, and I'm just trying to kind of cut some of this off at the pass. If we can give people some more black and white information, I think people feel like it's maybe a bit too arbitrary, and they feel like we're using outdated information to make our decisions. So I just kind of want to nip that in the bud a little bit.
Audrey, you had something.
Can
We'll get
you
back to
help
you.
me jump into that, Jen? Because I'm on that same wavelength as you. And I mean, in the last couple of weeks, we've gotten how many letters home of instances where we have seen it in the school community, which we weren't seeing before. And here we are remote. So, and one of those, I'm like, I'm kind of glad we're remote right now because that keeps happening, off of that notion. But so on that same question, Jen, I'm curious from those weeks. So like every time it says there's a new house for the addresses, like are those always a different home than they were previously? Or are we jumping, like if it's listed as the week of the 10th? So we're in 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different homes, like that kind of gives a little bit more of that community spread aspect to me. I mean, 7 homes out of how many that we have in town. But I feel like that kind of goes to that. And my other question is, and I guess, is Board of Health also keeping track of like how large the family was? Because I definitely know instances where, one person is testing positive and everyone has to quarantine. So they're not even bothering to test the rest of the family. So, and that to me tells me that our numbers could actually be very much higher.
And that would be at times part of Dick's interpretation that, we don't know, the exact magnitude because we're dependent on whether or not individuals are tested. And I don't want to speak on behalf of the Board of Health, but a couple of things. Our metrics being outdated, I'm not sure what that means. If folks are asking, I think it would be great to reach out to the Board of Health and clarify with them. But the numbers are entered into a state system. And at the end of the day, my understanding is they actually try to match it. As you can see, there's a DPH number. Dick basically estimates or calculates a positivity rate, but then he waits to match it with the DPH number. So they are working with the state, but at the same time, we are working very closely with South Hadley because some of the information that we are using is coming directly from South Hadley as well. So it's not like Granby all by itself is just creating a spreadsheet and saying this is it, and we don't care how it is. This is really, as far as I understand, the combination of multi-layered input, a lot of different data sources. And the reason why we have all these different columns is because the Board of Health did not really want to say the state is giving us this single metric and here's a color. They wanted to be able to dig a little deeper to understand the specifics related to Granby.
Also, Emery, they notify us, if they're students, so that if, as I've notified the community in the past couple notifications that we have had students that have tested positive, which wasn't, the case. If you look at the age range of positivity, it has really changed over the course of this virus, and it's now the numbers are higher in younger, the younger population, whereas before it was more higher. So we're using this as a metric. We have the health and safety. We are listening to our school physician as part of health and safety. All of those go into the decision, to be open or to close. Jen?
Okay, so a couple questions with the age that you just mentioned. Do we have a statistic for that that can be added as a snapshot for the town of Granby, what the age is? Is it 19 to 24? Is it 12 to 18? Do we have that breakout available for Granby? And then I'm looking at the bottom 2 lines of this graph that you have on the screenshot for the week of 113, or I'm sorry, the day 113 and 114. So we had 46 cases on 113 and we were at 6.81% with 38 cases for DPH. And then 114, we added 1 case, went to 47, but our percentage dropped to 6.33, although our DPH number went to 45. How is this percentage factored?
So,
Those don't make sense to me.
okay, so the percent positivity has all to do with the number of tests that were initiated. So if you go on our website, there's a link to the COVID, where you can get all the breakdown. And so if you have more tests and less positive, it affects that percentage. It is not a percentage that our school physician feels we should be leaning on, because he says if you have a lot of tests, it impacts the percent. But it is percent positivity is what many districts are using as one of their metrics. So we have percent positivity, we have the color coding of the governor, we have the rolling averages, and we also look at the positive cases, within Granby. So, we're not looking at a single metric. We're looking at, multiples, and that's last or 2 meetings ago, we looked at we looked at that data tool and used that as our gauge.
So which column goes to the new tool that we adopted? Is it the rolling?
So
I don't remember.
F is the Granby number, and the color coding one is the state number, and the percent positivity is also a line that we're looking at. So E, F, and G.
And just to jump in real quick, that DPH number, sometimes it's reflecting lower because DPH takes the snapshot every Thursday, and that's the number we have until the following Thursday. So that they're not going to match up. That's why there's a difference in the DPH number with the rolling day color.
Also, that's a great point, Stephanie. On top of that, until DPH officially shares the number, they just go through a filtering process to see whether or not the same individual is captured in different towns. For whatever reason, they may have multiple residences, or they kind of filter through that. So they make it official once a week, as Stephanie said. So there is at times an up or down difference compared to what DPH shares with us. But my understanding is that says, that column that says DPH Granby weekly color, that's the final number that we received until that point in time.
Correct. So, every weekend, last weekend, unfortunately, we had 17 positive cases, over the weekend, which are still being counted now because it's a rolling average.
But that sheet isn't, those numbers aren't on here, because the highest that we see was 1 from 114.
No, if you look at the 8th, the 6th, it's the week before, because the numbers, Stephanie's saying if they pick one single date, the date that they pull is the Saturday before Thursday. So it is, that's why our numbers look different than theirs, because they pull it on a single data point. So they pull it on a Saturday. And that is the number that gets done. So it's flagging data. So when you see 7-8, 7-7, 7-8, 7-9, there is your 9 and 8. There's your 17 cases. That would have been after, because the 7, 8, and 9 are Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, but they weren't recorded till Saturday. People got tested on the 7th, 8th, and the 9th, but the number wasn't recorded till after they had already pulled our number. It is complicated, but that's how Dick explains it, that it's a Saturday pull.
I think too, just to remind ourselves that this data is really confusing. And that's why we created that table that we all school committee voted to approve, because we kind of tried to weed out some of the more complicated numbers, like the percentage rate, like what Dr. Wodzinski was saying, where he wasn't as focused on that, because that tells us where we could be trending. There's been times we were yellow where our percentage rate was higher than it is right now in the red, because it's based off of how many people are testing. So we made that table, which showed, our color, our trending, all of that. And I think that's also the piece of data to be looking at weekly. We haven't met this week, which is why Carol saved this, brought up the snapshot through to last Thursday, because that's when it was brought to the state. So just more food for thought. Hopefully, as we get that table more worked out, we can start sharing that weekly too, Carol, if that's good with you, just so everyone can see kind of where we are.
Next, I know, Stephen, does anyone have any other questions on this? No? Okay. Then let me stop sharing my screen. I know, Alex, if you could, we need Stephen as a panelist. Stephen needs to talk to the committee about the SATs.
He's here. Stephen?
Hi, everybody. How are you?
Hello. Good. How are you?
Good, thank you. I'll try to be really quick tonight. We had PSATs scheduled for January 26th. And I would have gotten something to you sooner, but wanted to kind of see how the metrics and things played out. And then we reached out to the families who had originally signed up to see, in the current circumstance, if they were still interested in coming to school with the protocols that we have in place to take the PSATs next Tuesday. Of the 25 families that we've reached out to, 18 are planning to still send next Tuesday morning, if we have your permission to move forward with that. We haven't heard from 6 other families, and then we have a waiting list of 5 students too. So we anticipate having 25 students or so for PSATs. Students would arrive at about 7:30, 7:45. They would come right in the cafeteria, have assigned seating, 6 feet apart, facing the same direction. Masks would have to be worn, sanitizer will be available, and then students would be picked up immediately after the test at 11:30. So just wanted to put that on your radar and get the okay from you if we can still proceed to do that.
Any questions for Stephen? Thank you, Stephen. So this is for PSAT. We don't do SAT in-house, or is that for future consideration?
Not SAT. So SATs typically, we haven't offered in Granby since I've been there, but it's usually a Saturday, and students are, it's Agawam, Holyoke, West Springfield are the typical
Ludlow,
schools, the
yeah.
bigger schools, and
Yep.
Our students would travel there. The PSATs, typically it's 10th and 11th, but this year we focused it on 11th. We weren't sure what we would be able to manage in terms of capacity. So when we originally put it out to the students, our goal was to get about 25 students. So we put it out to the junior class, and we got about 25 from there.
Cool. Thank you. questions? All
I'm
right,
curious who's going to be like monitoring it and yours truly.
Me and the guidance counselors did offer and said that they could come in. So probably some combination of myself, Mrs. Jordan, and our guidance counselors. But we would, of course, minimize the number of people in there. So it would only be one adult in at any time.
Any other questions? Okay, is there a motion to approve the planned PSAT test? What's the date again?
Tuesday, January 26th.
For January 26th.
So moved.
Thank you, Jen. Is there
I'll
a second?
I'll
Thank you,
second.
Jen. All right, any last questions, comments? Okay, all in favor to approve, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Approved unanimously. Thank you all. Thank you, Stephen.
Perfect.
Appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming in and asking for this, because I'm assuming, did you only get one chance to do some of these things? So
Yeah,
I'm glad that they're,
and I want to be clear, this wasn't our only planning around it, because originally MCAS was also supposed to be next week with the window. So we had plans, and I think I said it 2 weeks ago when I presented that we had talked about the 9th and 12th grade or 9th and 11th grade coming back at the same. So it's been a lot. And, this was one thing that we were able to hold firm with everything else that was changing. So appreciate your support, and I'm confident we'll do it safely, and happy to hear the response from the students who want to come in and still take it.
great. Thank you. All right. Carol, did you have anything else to share in this?
No, no, I don't. Not for now. We have executive session later.
Okay. So we may have more to share later, not
Yep.
not right now. How about the superintendent search?
We are meeting again on tomorrow. I almost said Wednesday, but that's tomorrow. At this point, the flyer has been out and the posting is up. So
Cool.
we don't know whether or not there's going to be the folder that's going to be set up, and then we're probably going to figure out some more information tomorrow around how we will gather that and kind of go from there. So
Will you see those submissions real time? So as they come in?
about that, I don't know, because we don't. That's to be discussed tomorrow.
Okay.
Basically, we're going to collectively, because you don't want to. We're going to talk about that tomorrow.
Yeah, no, I think I know where you're going. Just I was just curious. The other thing is, what's the deadline for that?
That's an excellent question. I'd have to pull it up. I don't have it at my fingertips. I'd have to go into my drive to pull it up.
I think we said that first Monday of March. No, is it March 2nd?
Yeah, I didn't want to say it and
The
be wrong.
first. I thought it was by March 1st, but I don't remember.
Yeah,
either.
I don't
Okay.
want to say it and be wrong.
Yeah,
Right.
well, March 1st is that first Monday.
So it's about a month and a half. All right, cool. Well, thank you all for doing that. Thank you for the update. Anything else about the superintendent search? That's it?
I don't know if anyone else has anything to add.
All right. Jen, you're good? Okay. All right. So with that, Carol, do you have a superintendent's report?
Actually, Alex or Emery, if you could promote Megan Shepard, she is
Sure.
going to review some grants that we have.
Yep. She's with us.
Megan, you there?
I think she's getting ready.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right.
Wow.
Something was funny with my computer. I just have a couple, I actually have a couple slides to share. Could I do that?
Alex, can you help us?
He's being promoted now.
Great. Hold on one second. All right. So I just wanted to share with you guys a couple things that are happening within the Pupil Services Department. I think Sue kind of touched upon some of the work that she's doing with the Student Opportunities Act and how we want to continue to promote practices that support our high needs learners. And so one thing that our district applied for and was selected was to be part of this free initiative through the state with our early childhood providers. So it's called Building Equitable Supports for Students with Disabilities, and it's really about allowing our preschool teachers to have engage in a professional learning community and develop some more tools and understanding around inclusive practices, trauma-informed teaching practices and self-care, so that as part of kind of as this pandemic continues, we know that we're in this, there's trauma that may have or certainly have impacted students, and so this will help them become better in their practices to deal with those situations as they arise. So it was a great opportunity, and they went for it, and I give them a lot of credit for doing that amongst all the other things that they're doing right now. So I just wanted to share that initiative with you guys. And then the other thing is we applied for a competitive grant this fall through CELUS, which is social emotional learning, and we were awarded $10,000 to be part of this grant. And so it's about social emotional learning and how to integrate that into the curriculum more. And what we applied for, the part of this grant was around getting information, using the information to support our multi-tiered system of support systems. So we're going to be administering a survey that's based on the CAP framework. So these are the 5 areas of the survey that will be addressed, and it's going to focus on students grades 3 through 12. And see, my internet's unstable, so you'll see here. There's 5 areas that will be addressed: self-awareness, self-management, relationship skills, social awareness, and responsible decision-making.
I think we lost
And
her.
so in grades 3 through 5,
Megan,
9
we
through 12.
lost
Did you guys lose me?
Yeah, we lost you for a few seconds.
Oh yeah, my internet
So
is
anything
really
you
poor
said
here.
after hello, I think you're gonna have to repeat that.
Oh, the whole thing?
No, just on this table. You're good. To
Oh, it's just, these are the 5 areas that related to social emotional learning that the students will be asked questions about to understand skills are, what their intrapersonal skills are more than the interpersonal skills. So how do they manage themselves? How are their relationships with others? Are they making responsible decisions? And then we can take this information, and this is just more about the survey design and how, sorry, this is really sensitive. Gosh. Okay. So then based on the data, each student would get a score. The higher the score, the more social emotional development skills you have. And so we would be able to take this data and create these maps on strengths, expected and unexpected, areas of needed for development, and then unexpected areas of needed development. So something unusual about that particular student that would be unexpected given the rest of their social emotional skills. And so you would get a score, and that score would talk about that zone of proximal development, which is kind of like you're within reach, like you have some of the skills, but you're not fully developed. And so we can use some of that information to develop those skills of students over time. You get information, you can see on my cursor here, where the district falls. So we get information about the district as a whole, information on students in general, the student in general, and then like where we should target any interventions that might be necessary for those students.
Megan, can I ask a question real quick on
Sure.
that? Why is the district average, is it so much lower than the student average?
This is just an example.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, we haven't done it yet. So it's going to take place in March. And it's about, they say like give yourself like 45 minutes, but it's a 15 to 20 minute online survey, like through it's Alchemy or something. But so it's going to be quick. And it gives us a nice snapshot where kids are. Other districts, there's another district that's been doing this. This will be their 6th administration of it. And they've been able to really gear their tiered intervention support system to the areas of need for those students, and find patterns amongst certain grade levels or cohorts of students, and fill in gaps. So both the elementary, East Meadow 3 through 6, and then the junior senior high school, I've got all the social workers on this to help support, develop, initiating the survey, looking at the data, and then coming up with some different types of solutions to solve whatever problems we find. Let's see.
Sorry, Megan. Is every child doing this and taking this, or are we pinpointing?
Every child, grades 3 through 12. Well, we're going to be sending out a consent to parents shortly, so that you guys get the information what it's about. It's not heavy duty, so you'll be able to opt out if you don't want your student to participate in it. But I would have to say, like, it's pretty, I think if you look at this timeline, so you can see that there's professional development that will happen to assist the people on the team, how to use the data. And then it helps us integrate this data with our vocal climate survey, which gets done in May. And then we can use that plus like disciplinary data or attendance data. So you kind of create this whole data system around social emotional skills and development and risk factors to support students. So it's a pretty unique system, and we're really just dipping our toe into this year. And if we're able to do it again going into next year, which is kind of the goal, to have some consistent data points on students, we'll be able to see how we're meeting our goal around developing the whole student, as Sue discussed in related to the strategic plan as well. And then
I have another question too. So I know that obviously we got the grant for this year. Will there be grant money going forward, or?
So yeah, so we got a great deal of money for this year, and then you can apply to be one of the few districts that would keep going with the grant into next year. I think we need to see how it goes and what information we get from it, but we certainly will benefit from all of the information we receive in this in this year, and from the how to use those maps effectively. I think we're small enough, we know our students pretty well, but I think it'll be a nice jumping off point. We even if we don't participate in the grant part, if we're not selected, I think we still could be, we could still use the survey in the future. I think that's their goal, is that to have more districts use the survey to get these types of data as part of raising achievement in schools.
And I'm assuming that would be something you would come back to the committee about, going forward, if we were going to continue using it.
Yeah, I think we could talk, talk about what that looks like, and what benefit it is to us. And then, so these are just some of the professional development opportunities that we are benefiting from being part of the grant. The bullying webinar, anti-racism and equity, using the data, coaches. There's also a community of practice, so we can work with other districts selected and like learn what they're doing and benefit from, you know, ideas that they have as well. You can see at the bottom, they have the year 2 continuation grant as well. All right. This is just, I don't think you need to, there's that. So this is just shows like how these maps, they're called SWAN maps, that little grid I shared with you, and how you would use them to help support the different tiers of student supports. Yeah. Sharing. Did you guys have any other questions or comments about it? We'll let you know how it goes, and you know, hopefully things will go smoothly, but you know, with any survey or type of work, it always, you know, little hiccups here and there, I'm sure.
So you said we got the grant on this, right?
Yeah.
So what is the next step for you in the implementation of this?
So the next step will be sending out the parent consent, the informational to, you know, to give you guys information, the community information on what it is going to, you know, the survey will entail, when it'll happen, and then work with the team that I have to, you know, get it up so that it can run when it needs to run in March. So we have a planning meeting later this beginning of next week to kind of go through. We've been in a couple meetings with the state, who the person who's running the program, and kind of she's introducing us to all the different facets of it and problem solving some of the challenges with remote learning and doing it remotely. Some of the districts are rather large comparatively. I think there's like 26,000 students across the state that are in this participating in the survey this year. And they're really trying to use the data to tie it to the 5 core competencies of CASEL and be able to measure those things distinctly, so you know, it can have a better, you know, more of a benefit for students. Because social emotional skills are kind of, they're harder to quantify. It's easy to say like, okay, our math score is this, but social emotional, it's a lot of, you know, internalizing, you know, thoughts and feelings, and it's definitely more interactional. So it's just more challenging to say you have X, you do well in this skill. Like, how do you measure that? So they're really trying to focus on doing that to help students overall and create programs that are suited to what the kids need at that time.
So thank you for doing that. I'm happy that, you know, we have the grant, but I'm happy more so that we are still pursuing this. About 4 or 5 years ago, when we did not even exactly understand what social emotional learning program meant, you know, based on what was shared with us, the decision was made to pursue and also become a strong district as far as social emotional learning is concerned. And I'm happy that, you know, we did grow our program. We became stronger as years went by. And thank you for your work, for Carol, your work on all this.
Sure. And just another thing that we're doing currently too is like we have these small, we took a chunk of that time on Wednesday afternoons at East Meadow, where they have like additional time to plan and, you know, for the students, but we took a little bit of that time and are doing like a mini like workshop on trauma informed practices with one of our district support contracts that we have. And so we're using some of this money to be able to give like small groups, so to talk about kids, but talk about how to think about kids and how to change the way you think, you know, change or improve, I guess, because I think our teachers do a really lovely job on, you know, how to be more trauma informed when you're seeing behaviors that are, you know, challenging to, you know, getting the academic piece, you know, accomplished. So there's that.
Cool.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Megan, for coming and sharing.
Have a good night.
You too. Take care.
Emery, one last thing is I know we had proposed dates for next cohorts to start. And since we've been remote, a lot of that's been pushed back. The committee's not scheduled to meet until what, the 1st?
Or the second.
Second.
Yeah.
And I know that when we met the last time when we were talking about the cohorts, I believe Stephen came on and, presented, about the high school. And I believe that second semester starts that week. So I didn't know if the committee wanted to have any discussion about tentative dates or how you want to look at that.
Thoughts? Go ahead, Jen.
So I guess I'm confused because we spent a whole bunch of time developing that tool and we can't really have dates, or at least this is the way I understood it. We can't really have dates because we need to meet so much of the criteria in order to be able to even start to talk about the dates. No? I mean, like we need to, in order for kids to come back that are even there, we need to at least hit yellow so that special needs can start, hit that yellow by a Thursday so the special needs kids can start on that Monday. And then we need to have one whole full week of that before the returning kids can start back that following Monday. And then it's based off of weeks off of that, isn't it? I mean, I thought that's what we spent all the time talking about the last time.
Yes, but we could go, I'm a positive thinker and I'm hoping that maybe we'll get to yellow, and I don't want you not to have, had a meeting and then have to have a meeting in order for things to start. That's all.
Okay, I'm all about it. I've been telling people incorrect information. I had a completely different understanding of how we were using that tool. So I apologize, and I would love to set some dates and let's see if we can get them to stick.
So Carol, what are you proposing? At least tentatively have February 1st for the return of which grades?
Stephen, are you still on? I mean, I'm not sure if we can
Yeah.
say February 1st, but I'm just, just as something out there, for
Okay.
families to hold on to.
Stephen is on the panel.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, like Jen was saying too, I think I want to make sure we're clear. We need dates for the kids who were already in to come back before we start talking about all the additional kids who haven't been in. So, 7th grade was in, and the last time we talked about having 7th and 8th grade come in at our next available date. So I would hope and like to stick to that. And our high needs obviously go without saying. The sooner we can get them in, the better.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so help me understand what we are saying now.
So what we're saying is that as when we can get back in, I know that Allie's was asking, because she is, I believe, looking, at through the sports lens and wanted to know when our high school kids would be getting back in. So right now, I think, as Stephen said, we'll get our 7th and 8th in when we bring that first group in. And we also talked about, I believe, 2nd grade. There was if I can go back in my notes, we talked about possibly 2nd grade coming in when we bring our group back in. I mean, is that something that, the committee is on board with?
I would like to see what our updated numbers are at this point before I can set, Because I feel like we keep losing kids and our numbers keep changing or whatever's happening. Do we have updated numbers to look at that? I'm definitely for 7th and 8th still starting back when they do, and when everybody start, our kids that were already in, start those in, definitely.
Okay, and looking, so we already have K and 1 in, it would be adding second. So you want to know the numbers of second graders? What those two cohorts look like? Because I thought.
I know we had intentionally spoken several times about second grade being large. So and not even just how many kids would be coming in.
Okay.
I feel like we had talked about this last time with the nurse and everything else. And I want to make sure we're being as thoughtful and not rushed, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I have a calendar up right now. I guess I don't mind putting a date on it as long as obviously like we're all aware that, in my opinion, I was following Jen. I thought as soon as we hit yellow on a Thursday, that Monday, we were right back with special pops. 1 week of yellow, we were in with whoever was already in the building, and then so on. So we can put dates out there, but I think I'd be shocked if we
how about rather than so on, we're the way the phases work right now, it's 3 weeks. Is that what?
Oh, I thought it was 2. I thought that we had talked with Nancy and she had.
No, I'm saying our current, the way our current reopening plan is written, it says 3 weeks in between. So.
Okay, so we can have that discussion right now if we can change it to the 2 weeks. I know I'd be okay with that.
Is that what you're asking, Carol? Whether it can be 2 weeks?
2 weeks or 1 week? There's only if you're in cohort A and you come back to school next week, there's only 30 days of in-person learning for the rest of the year. And, we have grades that haven't even got in the building, so I know we're in the middle of a pandemic. I know that the numbers are high. I know all of that. But like I'm hearing, families wanting their kids, to get to school. And, if we're going to do 2 weeks in between, you're talking 6th grade, we're in March now.
I would be more interested in having the conversation of bringing more grades in than necessarily, I think 2 weeks is fine. But if we brought I don't know what we were at. I think it was 2nd was by itself, right? And then it was 3rd, 4th, then 5th and 6th.
Yep.
I'd like to see what numbers are. Do you know what I mean? If that second group has a lot of kids that are choosing remote, or do they not? Or, how many is it adding in? I just think it's a valuable conversation to be had.
I think that all makes sense. We maybe just conflating a couple of things. One is the desire to return to the classroom, at least, in that hybrid format. That's all understood. But at the same time, even if we put dates on the calendar, that's going to be dependent on, I'm assuming, what we agreed upon last time, and we're going to be monitoring and just make decisions that way. For that reason, making a decision on 2 weeks intervals, even putting some dates on the calendar, I'm okay with that. It's just that it will still be governed by the criteria that we put out there. I think what I hear you say, Carol, is if we want to at least put some dates out there, one, it's a hopeful message. Two, if things, take a turn for the positive, which we are all keeping our fingers crossed for, then our decision making will be easier because we don't have to, then reconvene the school committee because we will know what the next cohort looks like or next grades look like. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I just don't want us to be where we don't have a meeting and then we're delaying,
Yeah,
Well, I
I'm
would
at the
love
very least okay with that 2-week interval. I have no problem with that.
Well, I think part of what has happened is I felt like the last time the school committee was okay with the interval, but I'm and I'm not trying to call anybody out or to misspeak, but I felt like the nursing staff and the Board of Health was not comfortable with that 2 weeks, which then changed our decision to remain with our 3-week interval. So I guess this goes back to some of people's frustration is if it's our decision as the school committee to be making these decisions, then can we even vote to do the 2 weeks and have that be an accurate representation of how we're going to move forward?
You are the governing board. So I would say yes.
So my last question, not even technical, based on what you said earlier in the meeting, Carol. We have an executive session right after this one. Would it make more sense to really have that session and then maybe discuss this? It may make it easier to really go forward and just set those dates up, the intervals up. Otherwise, I agree. Just at the end of the day, if we want to go with those 2-week intervals, it's a conversation that we had a few times. I think the school committee was okay with that. The school committee is the final decision maker for everyone's benefit, but we are informed by a lot of sources as we are making these decisions, including the conversation related to the criteria that we voted for last week. So I see all different perspectives, but if folks want to understand who makes the final decision in the school district, that will be the school committee. But the school committee just doesn't just stand and say, here's our decision, and this is only based on our understanding. We are trying to get informed by all these different groups that know some things better than we do. That includes Board of Health, as you said. That includes the nursing staff, the school physician. We're trying to understand really what's the best set of criteria to put out there. Again, just my question is, does it make more sense to have that conversation after rather than right now?
Sure.
Audrey, you were going to say something.
Because while we're on this topic, and for that complete transparency, yes, we are the final word, but there have been decisions to close that were not our decisions earlier in the year. So, correct?
Yes.
So I want that out there too. Like while we're on this discussion and for clarity's sake, there were times that the schools were closed that was not our decision.
They were closed because of positive cases in our schools.
Correct.
That impacted.
Just, I want to make sure it's.
And action needed to be taken immediately. And
right. And that's right.
But as far as decisions of closing for multiple days and weeks, it has been the school committee.
Or the plan.
Yes, or the plan.
Yeah. Jen, I think you had a question.
Well, it's more of a comment. It's like, I feel like we're dancing around the elephant in the room, right? Like we know people are frustrated. A lot of people are frustrated. We're getting a lot of emails as a school committee. We're getting a lot of individual texts and emails as just people in the community. So we're trying to make this forward progress. And I would love to put a bunch of dates on the calendar, but at the same time, I don't want the backlash that comes because the town of Granby remains red, right? So, and then the next question that becomes the even larger elephant in the room is, well, how come the other towns are doing it? And so therein lies the problem. There is not any clear data anywhere that says, well, East Long Meadow is red and they're going back. And Ware is red and they're going back. And what about this? And what about that? I feel like, I hate to do it, but we kind of need to address some of those things that are bouncing around because people are looking to these other towns and their other friends and saying, well, this little town of Granby can't get out of its own way. And so I'm comfortable with the decisions that we've been making. I feel like we've been having excellent conversations this entire time, and I'm proud of us. Like, I think we've been doing a bang up job, but there's a lot of confusion out there. There's a lot of frustration out there. And I just feel like we need to kind of take a hot second and address it so that we can get people all on the same page. And maybe I'm being ridiculous and I'm okay with that, but I just feel like it's the only way. I'm tired of dancing around all of this stuff. We all know why we're asking the questions that we're asking is because we're getting beat up from the outside. And I'm just ready to take the bull by the horns and say, okay, let's talk about it. Let's have a real conversation for just a hot second so that we can get it out there.
Yeah, no, that you're making good points, and I think getting beat up is part of the job at times. So, but we appreciate the feedback. We appreciate the input. At the end of the day, we are not making any one of these decisions capriciously. Even without those feedback, not that they're not valuable. I think our intent is really to go forward. We are here at a school district. Our purpose for being here is to make sure that education goes on the way we would like to see it. So hopefully that intent of the school committee is clear to everyone, that school committee is not basically applying the brakes for capricious reasons. But aside from that, a few things I think we all have to look at, and I will second a lot of things that you said with respect to the work that this committee, I believe, has done. And thank you for saying all that. Because at a time when many other school districts chose to be remote, we actually sat down, had conversations, and started our hybrid model. In fact, I would say that we were one of the first school districts that approved a hybrid model, and many school districts followed us because they were not sure whether they wanted to go, one way or the other. We told them that there was a middle way, and we approved that. And I am, as you said, I am proud of that as well. At a time when many school districts were in and out, we were having conversations to decide how we could keep it going. And for the most part, we, not as many students as we all wanted to, but we were able to have some of those students and the cohorts in our school district. If we're going to go and look at the examples, some red districts are in, some red districts are out. Well, there are examples both sides. I think South Hadley is still, red and out. Belchertown, as far as I understand this week, red and out. So we can all find our examples to make our case, but we don't even have to do that. I think all of those folks out there watching this or coming to us have to understand that we're not really on different sides of this conversation. We are all wanting to see our students back, education happen the way it should, our kids benefit from their education, our teachers be safe, but our job as a school committee is to balance all of those things. There lies the difficulty of our decisions and all the questions that we're asking. But, at the end of the day, we know for a fact, and that's why I said, it comes with the job, that we're not going to make everybody happy. But it's not because we don't want to make everybody happy. It's because, life doesn't work that way, because these are really uncertain times and we're trying to make decisions in the middle of uncertainty. And that's the difficulty of what we're trying to do. Hopefully, at least to an extent, I understand the frustration that is out there. I truly sympathize with it. I cannot say it any other ways. I understand their frustration, but I hope that they understand our goal as a school committee is really find that way forward. But, hopefully we don't forget that we're not in normal times and we're not making these decisions in normal times. We kind of started going through this period that nobody expected back in March 2020. We're still trying to find a way out of it. And we're not alone. We're not alone in it. That's why, some of these conversations, if it's going to put some dates and give some hope and set us on the right path, I think we're all good with it. But we also have to keep our eyes on the numbers and be cautious and remain safe for the well-being of the entire community.
And can I just jump in real quick? I just want to, second what Jen said, and I appreciate you saying it and putting it out there, because we know that those conversations are happening and none of them have been, made quickly. There's a lot of thought that goes into it. But just to mention also, a lot of this is coming from social media to encourage people to come to these meetings, speak during visitor comments, reach out. I know Carol is amazing and responds to every single email that she gets from parents. And it's hard because if we do this town's doing this one's doing that, like Emery said, you're going to have different schools for every point, right? Like some hit red one day, go out. I actually thought we were one of the most flexible because we stayed in hybrid for 2 weeks while we were red. Many districts didn't do that. Or, we all want to get back in, absolutely. And like I said, the second we're yellow, I hope that, we transition and stay that way. But a bigger factor here is for a very small community, we're not doing a very good job. And I hate to say it, but it's just true. Our numbers for such a small town are really discouraging. And when you hear the Board of Health and where they're coming from, it's frustrating. So for every parent that wants their kids back in this building, I just encourage you to tell your friends and let's just, hunker down. And that's the only way we're going to get back in is to, be smart and do what we've been doing for nearly a year, even though we're all getting really exhausted. So I guess that's my only 2 cents I wanted to throw in there.
Yeah. Thank you, Stephanie.
Emery,
Yes.
can I just answer Audrey's question about the enrollment, just so you
Sure.
guys have those numbers?
Yeah.
It's changed just a little bit. So second grade it actually evened out a little bit. There's about 5 kids that are going to go remote. So it's put our cohorts at 24 and 25, the 2 cohorts, A and B cohorts. So it was 24 and 31, and now it's down 24 and 25. So it leveled that out a little bit, few less kids in cohort B. It still is one of our larger grades, the larger grade, but we can fit 38 in the cafeteria comfortably, all facing the same way, 8 feet apart, 1 at each table, that it's all set up. So there's no questions with any of that. So just so you have all that information when you go to make your decision, if that helps.
Great. Thank you, Bill.
So to try to get us back on track, how do we even go ahead and try to make a schedule of dates? I mean, I'm all for it. Like I would like for, February 1, all of the schools to go back. Like who doesn't want that, right? But how do we do that so that we don't, there's a point where we're being helpful to get dates out there, but then we're going to have just as many people upset with us when we have to go beyond it. So,
Right.
Right, that's my worry. And we have February vacation smack dab in the middle too. So to put dates out that are very likely to change, I don't see being helpful. But I mean, if that's what you guys want to do, that's fine.
Can we do more of a phasing plan like we had like what was originally brought out by all the committees, and work it that way so that we don't have a date tied to it, but we know 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks or whatever. I mean, but do we have enough weeks left in the school year to even do it out to get all the grades in? I'm asking honestly because I really don't know. It doesn't feel like we have that.
Not unless we double up. And so that's why I know we've added when we can come back in, when our kids who have been already in come back in, we're bringing 8th grade in with them. Correct, Stephen? So
that's what was agreed upon last time.
That's a new grade coming in. So Audrey, now that you know the size of the group, I mean, could we, when we bring in K and 1, we bring in 2 too?
But then wouldn't it be, if we went with that idea, are we then thinking 4, 5, 6 altogether?
No, you could do 3, 4. You do 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm just saying second grade was supposed to be in.
You want second, oh, are you asking if second grade returns with pre-K, K, and 1?
Yes.
Oh.
So, Bill, do you have all the numbers in front of you? Like what is 3rd? What's 4th? Like, are we really going to go down this rabbit hole right now? Like,
well, I don't know if we need to go down that rabbit hole, but
no.
If we go down, if we look at just bringing second grade in, right, and adding those students in to what we have already. So right now we have 48. students in the A cohort, and we have 34 students in the B cohort total with K1 in preschool, right? So that's what's in the building right now. So if you were to add those 24 onto that, and then add the 25 onto the 34,
Can you
those
just can you
would be your
repeat those
total.
numbers? Pre-K K1.
48 on A, and we'd be adding 24 to that.
Okay.
And then it's 34 in the B, and we'd be adding 25 to that. And that would be our total with pre-K, K1 and 2 in the building.
And that includes our special pops that are currently there too?
Yeah, because don't forget now, they're in these numbers, right? Some of them are already pre-K, some of them are already K, some of them are already 1, some of them are already 2. So we're kind of move them around in the count, right? So they might come out of the special pop count and go back into their first grade count or their second grade count.
Would anyone mind if I suggest that we bring in Nancy or possibly Cheryl too to just get their input on this? Definitely Nancy. I'm just curious with adding.
So I have a different question, and just shut it down if you don't agree with it. That's okay. Would it be best if we just call a committee meeting next week just to discuss this? I don't think we have enough time to post before Friday for this week. By which time we will have a few more pieces of information available to us instead of just trying to gather that data piecemeal right now during the meeting.
So to be a single item.
Single item, just for this, we can get together and pour our attention into that, and maybe that would be a little more helpful. Just a thought, if everybody agrees.
I would be for that.
I would also.
We'll get you updated totals.
That'd be
for
nice.
each grade level.
Okay, Jen, are you good with that? Would you be able to? Okay.
I mean, I need the date, what day we're going to think about it, so I can adjust my calendar.
It's up to all of you.
Would we do a Tuesday again, the 26th?
Sure, we can do two. We can do any of those.
That's about the only day I can do.
Okay, 26 is good.
Time?
6 or earlier. I think I'm available after 5 on Tuesday.
6 would be good for me. Yeah, I can't do any earlier than 6.
Okay, sounds good. Let me make sure that I'm not actually accepting something.
I'll make the link right now.
Thanks, Alex.
Alex is like, before this guy finds another meeting on his calendar. Because I know I have one more meeting, but I don't know when it is. Looks like I'm all good. All right, 26. If it works, that's it. That's our meeting next week.
Okay.
January 26th, 6 o'clock.
And the only item, just to clarify, is to just kind of build out another schedule, or
Yeah.
try to build out another schedule.
Or try, yes.
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 Thank you.
We'll at least have this
No.
Thursday's numbers, right? So.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Yeah, thanks everybody.
Being flexible. I think that's definitely the way to do it rather than rush and turn this 8:40 meeting into an 11 o'clock meeting.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
Cool. All righty. Bill, Stephen, thank you for your input. Nancy's on if there are any questions, but I think we can have Nancy and everybody else next week at the meeting, in addition to the data that we're going to have.
Emery, you wanted, and I don't see it, you wanted a standing athletics on the agenda, and I
don't know what that means.
You wanted sports. You wanted sports update.
Oh, yeah, just how we're doing, if it's available. If not, I think Allie I may have misheard what she was saying, but she was saying that she was listening into the other meeting to find out whether or not there was going to be a delay.
Okay.
I thought she said there already was a delay, so maybe she's
Okay.
going.
All right.
Yeah, I think it might be a March 1.
All right. So let's bring her in and let's get that update. And Allie, are you able to speak?
Yep, I'm here.
All right. Do you have any updates for us?
Yep, there's a delay.
Okay.
It's slated to begin March 1st. It made sense. I'm struggling with the idea of kids not being in the building and bringing athletes in. I feel like given the numbers, I'm kind of waiting for the school committee to make a decision along with a new metric to support kids in. I'd like to see the kids learning first before we bring athletes in.
Is my recollection correct that South Hadley said either on the 25th or 28th, one of those dates, they were going to reevaluate their?
They're reevaluating. I actually talked to Eric today and asked him to join me tonight. He declined, respectfully declined. He said
scared him last time, that's why.
Yeah, he was a little intimidated. He said they're reevaluating the 21st and their slated start date is the 25th. So we'll know more then, but the Board of Health is come back at me, looking for me to do a little more homework on basketball being offered. I pushed back respectfully with the engineering report from Davey. They are looking for us to get additional information, and Mr. Bombardier is going to be reaching out to Davey Engineering himself for further clarification on, his feelings as to why they don't recommend basketball being offered in the gym at East Meadow. Again, it's not a facilities. That's the way I understood it. It's not a facilities issue. So he's trying to understand whether or not it was his personal feelings and why that recommendation was coming. Adam was on the meeting with me, and so was Carol. I could have misinterpreted, but my understanding was the recommendation, he was not supporting basketball in the gymnasium. So I have some more homework to do.
Who was not supporting basketball?
The engineering company.
What?
So to clarify, Davies wasn't, even though they passed off on East Meadow?
Yep.
So let's be clear. So Davy has nothing to do with East Meadow thus far. They've come in and only been at the high school because up to this point, we told them we didn't need them to do in-depth studies at East Meadow because we had updated 21st century technology that was help with the virus. So to this point, they've only been in the high school and done tests and walkthroughs of the high school, just to be clear.
But they made a recommendation about East Meadow without being in it?
He was not comfortable making a recommendation to support basketball being played in the gymnasium.
So their stance was that with the increase of with the exposure and this new strand of COVID and the idea of playing basketball in a gym where the chances of spreading that germs with higher anaerobic or aerobic activities. I'm not sure what the difference is. Allie, you're the phys ed major. He just couldn't recommend us having basketball in the gym. He just felt it would increase the rate of exposure and transmission, and they couldn't recommend that. Now that was their personal, professional recommendation, but that's what he said to us last week. I believe the phone call was with Davey.
He's an engineer, right?
Are they going to come back in then and do an assessment? Because what about gym class?
No, Mr. Bombardier is going to, from the Board of Health, is going to call Davey Engineering and talk with the father, engineer to engineer, and get to the bottom of what his thoughts were around it.
this all came about because they wanted an occupancy number for basketball practice. And so we didn't have an occupancy number. Davy did occupancy numbers at the high school. So we reached out to them, gave them the dimensions of the gym. And, you know, they know we have state-of-the-art airflow, but they did not feel comfortable with an occupancy number.
So do we have now? All right.
It's
Do we
more,
go ahead.
it's more, so gym class, when kids are in East Meadow Gym, we are keeping them 6 feet apart. We're doing activities where they're not engaging in any contact. There's no contact gym happening. Okay. And what I believe Davey was concerned about was that there would be kids that would be getting in other kids' space, space. Like, so if you're dribbling down and shooting into the basket and someone's coming right behind you and shooting into the basket, it was more the contact in the same spaces is what, and so that's why he would not give us an occupancy number.
So may I just offer this? It seems that good questions, but doesn't look like we're going to have the answer because we don't have them. But Dick's going to reach out and talk to them. Maybe we can find out after that conversation what transpired, and maybe the conclusion will be different. But if it's okay.
Can we reach out to McDuffie because they got the approval and we have a
I've already done that. That was their recommendation to me. I've been working and emailing back and forth with McDuffie. I mimicked their proposal. That's why I requested drills and skills. We were looking at the occupancy number to design it specifically to keep cohorts small. We brought on 2 additional coaches, which the GEA approved for that same reason. So Mr. Bombardier he was great tonight. He said, we just have a little bit more homework to do in that regard. Like I said, I respectfully pushed back a little bit, as there's 150 high schools across the state that have been playing since December 14th, and probably another 75 that started last Monday. And we are probably one of 4 schools that pushed their start date back because of our town numbers and trying to make the right decision. And Stephanie, I believe you had asked me when do we draw the line? Well, I drew that line after, thinking about what you said the other day. And I said, it just makes more sense. And about 8 other schools agreed. And we decided to all move to fall 2, which starts March 1st, to allow sufficient time for the numbers to go down and revisit it. So when meeting with the Board of Health tonight, he just said he would be happy to have that conversation with Davey. I'm optimistic that he will be able to get the information that he needs. And if I need to do more homework with a different engineering company from like maybe Collier's, and if I need to look at other venues, we can certainly do that. But we have some homework to do, and I'd be fully prepared, to follow up with all of you afterwards once we hear back from them.
Thanks, Sally.
Can we just touch base on this occupancy number? Is that
Now or later?
That was really, Jen, I don't know if you're looking beyond athletics, but athletic wise, I was really looking to keep the numbers small for our athletes and for the coaches, and try to design a schedule that would keep, fall within the guidelines.
So the occupancy number is only for athletics.
I was looking at it for athletics.
Okay. So we're not going to be hit with, it's not going to come out of left field for an occupancy number for something else by bringing in, as we were just talking about, bringing in multiple grades. Like, is there a legitimate concern from Davies or whoever, whichever board we were talking about, that is, we're going to run into the next brick wall as we're getting ready to talk next week about trying to bring in more kids at a time?
I don't think so, because all of our areas fall within the guidelines.
Yeah,
All of
no,
it falls within social distancing and things like that. So we're good in that regard. I was just looking for it just to make sure we maintain the EEA guidelines in an enclosed space. That's what I was looking for it. But academically, everything falls within those guidelines. So
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because that was the first that I had heard about an occupancy number, and I wanted to make
Mhm.
sure we weren't going backwards.
yeah. Yeah, no, I think like that comes up a lot. It comes up a lot, especially with hockey too, and I won't go down this road. Obviously it's getting late, but I'd be happy to talk to you on the side about it. But that's definitely a number that has come up, in hockey arenas and how many they can hold and things like that. So I just want to be really mindful about how many people we could fit in a space safely. So that was my update. There's a delay and I have homework to do.
All right.
all right.
Thank you, Ally.
Thank you, Ally.
All right. Carol, did you have anything else?
Nope,
Okay.
I think I've
Thank
done
you.
enough damage.
Adam?
Yeah, just a couple quick things. Just one, I want to touch base on that for food service again. We've done over 45,000, almost 46,000 meals since September. So again, just to reiterate from before when Ken was on, him and his team are doing a great job. And unfortunately, while we're going through this pandemic, revenue-wise for food service program, it's giving us a little boost this year. So I just want to reiterate that. And again, say thank you to Ken and his staff for all the work that they've done. And then the only other thing was I mentioned last time the roof leak on East Meadow. So John Sullivan has worked with the manufacturer of the unit that is leaking up there. They did find the cause of it. That rooftop unit right now is off. It is not functioning, so the leak has stopped. What the manufacturing company did say is that it was installed incorrectly when the building was being built. So John, myself, and the manufacturer are going to work to see how we can get a new one up there and what the time frame is. So I just wanted to update you on that. There's no more leak right now, and we are working on replacing that rooftop unit. There are two rooftop units up there that are the same, and John and the manufacturer looked at the other rooftop unit that was not leaking, that is running the right way. However, it was installed the same way as the other one, so they made some minor adjustments like that to hopefully prolong the life of that one. But again, John's going to work with the manufacturer on replacing that rooftop unit as soon as we can. But the leak has stopped, and we are good for right now. Questions, comments, concerns? Just wanted to give everyone an update because I know I chatted about it last meeting. That's all I have. I think last time it was announced that they extended all the COVID grants. They were supposed to end on December 30th, but they extended them through June 30th of 2021. So I'm not sure if I mentioned that last time. We're expecting now with the new stimulus that was passed, some additional school funding. We're not sure how that will be allocated to schools or when, but there's certainly some more money coming our way for COVID relief. So as soon as I know more about that, I will certainly keep you guys updated. That's all that I have.
So the extension to June 30th means that we're not bound by this past, December 31st deadline that existed. That amount continue to be used. Is that what?
Correct. So the amounts don't change. We still have the same amount of dollars to use, but now they just extended the period of time in which we can use them. So it's through June 30th of this year now.
Cool. Thank you, Adam. Any questions for Adam? Yes, Audrey.
I remember us talking about having funds left, so I'm gonna assume they extended the date, but originally the date was December, right? So did we not use it all then, or?
No, so we haven't used it all. I guess your question is, do we have money left over? We do have money left over, but there was a couple of grants that expired December 30th, and there's one grant that expired in June 30th. So we always had some money through June 30th. Now we have all of it through June 30th. So,
Okay.
and we do have some money left to spend through June 30th of 2021. So I think that was your question.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Anything else? Any other questions? Okay. Jen, do we have anything from the collaborative?
I meet with them on Wednesday, next Wednesday.
Okay. All right. So we're meeting again next Tuesday. I think this is the end of our open session, and I will close it with an announcement. Just for the record, I individually shared it with every school committee member before, so it will not be a surprise to the school committee. So, we talk about the commitment that every school committee member makes to this work. I know for a fact that every single school committee member came with a lot of passion, a lot of interest in public education, and to bring some change to our school district. And I was lucky enough to get on this committee close to 9 years ago. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot from all of you, but I learned a lot from everyone in the school district, in the school community. A lot of new connections, a lot of interactions, a lot of difficult conversations, a lot of good town meetings, a lot of difficult town meetings, and then this year we have even more challenges. And I'm very happy the way Jen explained it. I'm really happy and I'm proud of the way this school committee always found a way. It doesn't have to be this composition, but this school committee found the way to sit down, put its collective head together, and find some solutions to things. But that passion and commitment also means time commitment. It also means making sure that those commitments are delivered. And many of you know that I've been talking about my load getting a little heavier outside the school committee this year, and the weight of my personal and professional commitments is getting heavy. That I need to focus on those, but also I am concerned that I will not be able to devote the time that I always love to devote for the school-related activities. So for that reason, I let everybody on the school committee know yesterday that I will be stepping down from my role, my position on the school committee, effective the end of this month. I thought this was going to be my last meeting, but looks like we're going to have another meeting. So the first thing that I want to do is thank everyone. I thank this school committee. I thank all of you, especially at a difficult time for all your collaboration, for all your input, feedback, for standing there for the school district, for the students, teachers, and the community overall. I want to thank all the previous school committee members that I worked with. Again, this is a continuous learning program, being on any committee, and I really appreciate it. I want to thank the administrations that I worked with, but I want to tell Carol that I had the pleasure of working with her. I'm very happy that we had this opportunity, because this is a tough time, and you understand, the true nature of individuals when times are tough. So thank you, Carol. Adam, Stephen, Bill, Allie, David, Nancy, all those that whose names I can count here. I really appreciate your openness for feedback, but also your ability to provide feedback. So thank you all for that. And I am lucky to have had shared some some meetings with you, but also happy that we were able to help the district. So with that long thing, I will pass the gavel to Jen right after this meeting. Maybe the executive session, but after tonight, our chair will be Jen Bartos, and the committee will make a decision as to who the next vice chair will be. I'm assuming at your next meeting or whenever the committee decides that that will be the case. And just to provide a little bit of information about that vacant seat now, we had that experience in the past a couple of times. It will be an appointment by the select board based on a joint committee meeting between the select board and the school committee. And again, this school committee can make that arrangement with the select board, and hopefully that arrangement and appointment can be made as soon as possible so that the vacancy doesn't exist even when we get to February. So with this long announcement, I want to also thank everybody in the community for all the feedback that you provided, but for your encouragement, for being there, for your own passion for the public schools, and for your support over the last so many years. With that, we're going to close the open session and we're going to go into executive session, and we will vote to enter into executive session under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Part A3, to discuss strategy with regard to collective bargaining, as doing so in an open session may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the committee. The committee will not return to open session. Jacqueline, can you help us have a roll call, please?
Sure. Ms. Shudek,
Yes.
Ms. Millette,
Yes.
Ms. Bartos,
Aye.
Ms. Parent,
Aye.